Okay. Hi, Robert. How are you? Thank you for coming on the
Good.
show. This is kind of a unique interview for us because normally on this show, about 99% of our guests are authors, and you're not here to promote a book.
Well, I would make an argument I'm author of in a different way, meaning with our WOW's insurance solutions and what we're doing and with the crisis that's going on with property in California right now. So I would jokingly say we're authoring a new way of doing insurance.
So the company that you are CEO, president, and co-founder is called WOWS, WOWS. Does that stand for something, or is it just?
That's the number one question I get a ton of. Really, you did exactly what I wanted you to do. It makes you wonder. I'm a big, I always like to make people think. That's what I've always done in marketing for over 25 years as an insurance broker, and now becoming what's called a wholesaler or an MGA. When we created the program or this company, WOWS, we did it because we made a joke about shocking and how shocking everything is and how we're going to fix it. But also we knew that it would cause people to ask us what it really means. And if I can get someone to talk to me, that's the most important thing.
So it doesn't mean anything?
No, sir, it does not.
Okay.
It does a good job, though, if you want to ruffle your spouse. My wife still to this day still tries to figure out what it means. And my business partners' wives are all doing the same thing. They think it's some conspiracy. We kind of smile and laugh about it all the time.
Well, I guess it's a good icebreaker.
It's a great icebreaker.
Yeah.
It has worked so many times. It's amazing in this journey of over the last couple of years with the WOWS programs we built is how many people will come up to us just to find out what it really means.
Well, I mean, let's face it, buying insurance is something that most people probably don't get real excited about. It's just sort of something you have to have. So to have a interesting name like that, yeah, I think that's a fairly good idea.
Well, and also, I mean, no one was getting excited until about 3 to 4 years ago when in California, at least, or the Western United States, all the insurance carriers started canceling, non-renewing, or double or tripling rates. Then I would jokingly say everyone's getting excited about it, but not in a good way.
Not in a good way, yeah. Let me ask you a little bit about that because we do see a lot of news about the wildfires that pop up around in California almost annually. It seems like. And I don't want to get into the whys because you've got people that says it's climate change. Other people have said it's forest mismanagement. Okay, whatever the reason, it is happening. And people are losing their multi-million-dollar homes and things. Was the reason that all those insurance companies were pulling out is that it was just too many fires?
Well, that's part of it. Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. There's multiple reasons why insurance carriers are pulling out of California right now. One, first and foremost, is based on how policies are set up in California and what the responsibilities are of consumers and what the responsibilities are of insurance companies. The second part of it could be very easily is based on saturation points. Believe it or not, in California, as an example, insurance companies, if you're an admitted carrier and you come to market with a product to sell homeowners insurance, you don't really have a lot of ways of slowing things down if it becomes too oversaturated market. We've been able to prove that oversaturation what's really killing the insurance companies in California. State Farm is a great example of this. That's going through 30,000 non-renewals right now in California for homes alone. There's an estimation over 100,000 policies. We'll see. And a lot of it's based on saturation. In markets where they ended up, like I used the Pacific Palisades. It's a city, for those that don't know where that is, in between Malibu and Santa Monica. They're non-renewing 1,526 homes right now. That's 69% of the total homes in that market. Well, I'm sorry to say this, no insurance company should ever have that much of a saturation of number of homes in a market. When you look at numbers from an insurance standpoint, obviously the basic definition of insurance is a spread of risk. Well, how can you have a spread of risk if you're 7 out of 10 homes?
You were talking about the premium rates. How much have they gone up in the last 5 years, average?
It's in some cases, for a lot of consumers out there, more than doubling. It's really trying. And really what is causing the effects of it, again, is the saturation. our program spreads risks. We have multiple programs we work with, but our WOWS program is really a concept that we believe will change how insurance works, not just in California, but the Western United States. We're currently working with Nevada state regulators, great people to work with. And they see it coming also. So they've been working with us to help try to expand our program into Nevada.
Although in Nevada, we don't have anything to burn, so fire is much less of a risk.
Well,
in the
yes
desert.
and no. I mean, you get to Lake Tahoe and Incline Village. And
Northern Nevada, yeah.
Northern part.
Yeah.
In Reno, I mean, I was in Reno when I went to meet with them, and I drove around. I felt like, it was almost like being in Shasta in Northern California. It's really, you got a lot of areas that have the potential to be really high burning areas. And really what it comes down to is just really changing. I mean, I use this term all the time, and it's terrible to say. The insurance industry is kind of like Einstein's theory of insanity. They're doing the same things over and over again and expecting a different result.
Oh, that is the definition of insanity. Yeah.
It is. And so what we've done is been able to use just from numbers. And this is just coming from me being a street guy. I was a street broker for 25 years before we moved into being what's called an MGA wholesaler. And what that is we work with insurance companies to come into California and appoint brokers across California to sell our program and other programs. Just simply reorganizing or simply changing how the policies work in California in an excess capacity allows us to really change the market and be good for not only the consumer, but the insurance company, as basically all three, the regulatory entities, the insurance company, and the consumer all benefit from the changes we're making.
Okay, so you are not an underwriter, you are a broker.
Well, we are classified, as an MGA, you actually do underwrite. So we're basically, we have a program, which is an insurance program for California. So an example, our policy is the first policy in the history of California we could find that's fully transferable from sellers to buyers. That's a really important thing. It takes out the vibration of the market, meaning consumers that are buying a house can have our policy transferred to them, and it makes it easier for the transition from seller to buyer.
Are you giving them the same rate or?
Same rate, same rate, same coverages.
How difficult is it to get insurance in some of the high-risk areas in Los Angeles, like the canyons and where you are?
Canyons, it's very difficult. And where we stepped in first and foremost is for larger homes. The reason for the larger homes are getting hit the hardest. Once you get over about a $2 to $3 million rebuild for a house, there's very few insurance companies that are still writing in California. So that's where we stepped in first with our program, which it's making a big difference. And it just really, the change needs to occur. We keep dealing with more and more. We see more and more companies continuing to pull out of California, and this is rippling through other states, like as I mentioned, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, Montana, Utah. These are all states that are dealing with the challenges of insurance companies pulling back.
Are you strictly on the West Coast, or do you handle East Coast as well?
We're West Coast. My joke is, and I hate to say it sounds terrible, I've been in fire. So I lived through the Malibu fire personally. I live in the city just outside of Malibu, and the fire burned through me, meaning I was able to save everyone on my street. No one burned, but there were homes in my community that went down as part of the Malibu fire. That's my expertise. I always joke around about the Southeast and flood and the hurricanes. That's a different animal. I'm solving the West Coast stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you about Florida and the hurricanes, because they have high risk as well, but for something completely different.
Yeah, and really what it comes into, it's really what both areas are challenged with is how things are being built and trying to get better. Now, one thing I will say about California is California has gotten better about defending fires. Cal Fire has gotten better. They have put out ordinances with like clean, and green. It's a ordinance on Cal Fire that the insurance companies are following, but they are absolutely correct. It can be the difference of how surviving versus not surviving in a fire. Everyone can go out there, if it's listening right now, go to calfire.org. It's a great resource. Because one of the things I say to every consumer, and I talk to a lot of consumer groups, is it doesn't matter how great the insurance is. If God forbid you lose your house, you're never going to replace your memorabilia, your things that you've had for your entire life. And it doesn't matter if the insurance does a great job and rebuilds and puts every pair of shoes back on your feet. You're still missing. You're never 100% there. That's a big difference. So preventative has gotten a lot better in California. They're doing a lot of things. As we mentioned, forestry was an issue. They're getting better about clearing spaces. This is all being taken more seriously. And I think over time, with also the reorganization of insurance in California, if it goes the direction we're proposing, will definitely make a difference in the industry.
This might sound like an off-the-wall question, but why are people still building wooden homes in high fire risk areas? Why not build it out of...
California is kind of a tough situation. So obviously, if we were in the Midwest, you would never see really, well, it's funny I say that now. I was just in the Midwest and I'm seeing more and more stucco homes. Okay. It's just funny because it's less cost to build a stucco home on a wood frame than it is to do remember how they used to all do the brick homes and things of that nature? It costs a lot more money. So what happens though, in California, you have to balance yourself with the ability to survive earthquakes as much as you can with fires. Now, granted, we haven't had an earthquake since 1994, major one. I'll knock on my head right now, is knock on wood. But what I would say is there are definite things that need to occur, even if it's a wood house. Is like, for example, on the lean, clean, and green, the older homes from the 70s and 80s have what's called open exposed eaves. That's the edge of the roof hanging over the house. Well, those were exposed. Well, simply enclosing those and enclosing to where it's cement boarded and so that there's no longer wood exponentially lowers the chance of the house burning. And that's a major difference.
We've got just a couple minutes left and I just want to go back to the company. So how long have you been in business?
I'm scary as it sounds. I've been an insurance broker approaching 30 years now. 25 years as an insurance broker. And the last 2 years, really a year and change of working as what's called an MGA wholesaler, working on bringing programs to California.
So just real quick, hypothetically, if I was purchasing a house in a high fire risk area in LA somewhere, why would I come to you versus just calling State Farm?
So, well, first of all, State Farm is completely shut down.
Well, that's a good reason.
That's a good reason. But two, also, we have a lot of consumers that reach out to us. We help consumers get to the right places is one of the things I would say. There's a lot of bad information out there right now. A lot of the insurance brokers, I call them street brokers, do not have access to programs or insurance programs that will allow them to play. So they'll immediately put consumers on what's called the California Fair Plan. California Fair Plan is a policy of last resort and try to build around it. That's bad information. 99% of the homes, we've been able to very successfully bring different programs into California. There are options. There are companies out there. So one of the things I say on every meeting, every group, every time I speak at Realtor Association meetings, anytime I speak in any consumer groups is that as of right now in California, unless you have a wood shake roof or the old what's called knob and tube, there are insurance companies out there that will be able to facilitate. It's just really knowing which ones are available. So if you're asking me what my greatest strength is really helping the public or consumers get to the right place.
Well, Robert, I think on that, we're going to have to wind this down. Thanks so much. Very informative.
Thank you. And when I write my book, I plan to be back there.
Okay. Last question before we wrap it up. Do you have a website you want to give out?
Yes. It's real simple. I'll give you both. My email is robert@wows, WOWS, insurance.com, or you can easily find us on wowsinsurance.com by just simply Googling WOWS, WOWS, insurance.com.
Wowsinsurance.com? Okay.
Yep.
We'll put that up on the screen for everybody. Thank you for coming on the show. It was nice meeting you and chatting with you.
Nice to meet you.
Best of luck with the company. I hope it does well.
Thank you.